It started with a glitch, not a dramatic explosion or grand betrayal, just a single misread signal, a flicker of static in the comms that nobody on the USS Warden thought much of as the human fleet moved into position along the Vega line, ready to flank the Grot Dominion in a plan refined over months of desperate strategy and sleepless simulations, a perfect dance of firepower, timing, and diplomacy. Commander Rutger, battle-scarred and fueled by a lifetime of distrust, sat in the command chair, eyes narrowed at the distorted screen as the data feed showed an incoming Grot formation breaching the treaty line, targeting human vessels. "They're pushing the treaty line," said Lieutenant Kenner, voice shaky, and Rutger, jaw clenched, ordered confirmation again and again. But the readout was the same. A massive fleet, 6 dreadnoughts, 12 cruisers, countless drone swarms, humanity's last ace. Everything gambled on this armada, outnumbered and diplomatically isolated, betting survival on never letting it get to a fair fight. So when the glitch told them the Grot were attacking, Rutger gave the order: fire. That one word erased civilizations. 10 minutes later, Earth Command learned the truth. The signal distortion was a software lag, a legacy Earth tech trying to sync with Grot neural protocol, and the target locks were automated scans, not hostile intent. But it was too late. The Warden's cannons had already screamed across the void, fusion lances tearing through the Grot line, dreadnoughts launching kinetics that split moons, and the humans, long called impulsive and violent, lived up to the worst of those names. The Grot, realizing what was happening, fought back, not just at the Vega line, but everywhere. Every outpost, every colony, every hidden fleet. The Galactic Council tried to intervene, but nothing could stop what had been unleashed. Even when Rutger knew the truth, he didn't call it back. Not when Kenner whispered, "Sir, it was a glitch. They weren't attacking." Rutger's stare didn't break. "They were going to. Maybe not today, but someday. We just beat them to it." It was a truth he'd carried for decades, and maybe all of them had, because Earth didn't trust the galaxy anymore. Not after Mars. Not after the siege of Delore. Not after the embargoes, the forced sterilizations, the years of being treated like a viral species. So when Rutger gave the order, it wasn't a mistake. It was revenge with a trigger, and the galaxy never saw it coming. Humanity had always been good at breaking things, but this time, they broke something no one could rebuild. Planets burned, treaties collapsed, the council fell, entire species vanished, and the human fleet didn't stop. They advanced, because one error had started it all, and now it was war without forgiveness. The first screams didn't come from the battlefield, but from deep space channels, diplomatic frequencies, high-priority codes, as Grot ambassadors, council mediators, and even Earth's own representatives clung to the dying belief that this could be contained, that it was a misunderstanding. But there was no stopping what had been unleashed. The human fleet wasn't made to respond. It was made to conquer. After Mars, Earth stopped pretending it belonged in the galaxy. And the other species never forgot how quickly humans escalated, nor did Earth forget how quickly they were abandoned. So when Rutger's order shattered the treaty line, the fleet didn't fall back. It expanded. The Warden, still radiating the heat of its kills, turned toward the nearest Grot colony, Cetrel 9, population 900,000, mostly civilians, mostly unarmed. They called it a preventive strike. The Grot defense grid sent out a desperate signal, a plea for clarity, but was met with silence, and then came fire. Warden's railguns tore open the atmosphere. Kinetic rods slammed into the crust. Towers collapsed, cities folded, and Cetrel, a beacon of peaceful outreach, became ash. Rutger didn't watch the destruction. He didn't need to. Around him, the crew performed their duties in silence until Kenner finally said, "They're calling this genocide, sir." Rutger didn't flinch. "They'll call it worse before this ends." "You knew the signal was a glitch," Kenner said, haunted. "You let us believe we were under attack." "No," Rutger replied. "I let them believe it. The only time they respect us is when we bleed them first." But Citrell was a civilian colony. So was Mars. Kenner didn't argue. He'd been there, orbiting Mars as it burned, watching Grot cruisers hover in neutrality while Earth's people suffocated. Still, Kenner said, "We're making enemies we can't afford." Rutger laughed hollowly. "We were already surrounded. At least now, we are the enemy they fear." On the third day, the galaxy responded with fire. The Valerie Sovereign declared open war, their fleets entering human space, unleashing drone carriers and graviton storms, wiping out a human colony in 30 minutes. Earth's reply was simpler. "We are done tolerating you." The human fleet split, the Warden as command ship, flanked by Warhawks, Krakens, Arbiters, and Haulers who harvested what was left behind. They didn't just destroy. They took weapons, tech, data, sometimes people. It wasn't honorable or clean, but Earth didn't care about honor anymore. Back on Earth, riots spread as the public saw the footage, the truth about the glitch, and something darker crept in. Agreement. A quiet rage, grief weaponized into fury. Most humans didn't want peace anymore. They wanted vengeance. EarthGov, trapped between diplomatic shame and military command, issued no apologies, instead unleashing Operation Pale Dagger, a galaxy-wide strike campaign against council infrastructure, trade hubs, refueling stations, communication relays. In the outer belt of the Creighton Verge, the council gathered, 12 species, 12 voices, all screaming. But Earth wasn't listening. Humanity had closed its ears to compromise, and now they were showing the galaxy why they should never have been underestimated. The council called it a tantrum, but the dead planets told another story. Meanwhile, on the Warden, Rutger reviewed intel on Valeri Prime, a council capital world. "Civilians," Kenner said, voice cracked. "Billions. If we hit that planet, it's no longer war, it's extinction." Rutger didn't look up. "You're assuming we want them to survive." Kenner stepped closer, hands trembling. "This isn't justice anymore. This is extermination." Rutger finally looked at him. "They were never going to let us in. We built ships to reach the stars, and they called us vermin. We asked for seats at their table, and they handed us collars. No more." "I didn't sign up for genocide," Kenner said. "You signed up to protect Earth. This is what it takes." There was a long silence. Kenner stepped back, eyes full of horror. Rutger didn't stop him. He didn't have time to explain that some wars weren't about winning, but about never kneeling again. Then came the worst moment. The Children of Istara, a peaceful alien sect known for rescuing human refugees, broadcasted a plea. "Stop, please. We sheltered your children. We defended your wounded. Don't make us suffer for others' sins." Rutger watched it once, then gave the coordinates to the Krakens. The Astara sanctuaries burned for 3 days. Not a single retaliatory weapon fired. The children, elders, healers, all gone. Not because they were enemies, but because they were the best of the galaxy, and Earth wanted to make it clear. Even your goodness can't protect you anymore. By week 2, the war had spread to 100 systems. Black holes filled with debris. Solar systems drowned in radiation storms. Dead moons turned into war factories. Humans didn't build empires. They built scars. The council crumbled. Species turned on each other. Treaties shattered. Trade routes closed. A 1,000-year order fell apart in days, and Earth, scarred and angry, rose from the chaos. Not a leader, not a tyrant, Just a race that stopped asking for a seat at the table and burned the table down. On the Warden, Rutger stood at the observation deck, staring into the storms of a dying gas giant, a graveyard of Valeri ships drifting like corpses. He felt no pride, just silence. "You know what they'll call us?" Kenner said. Rutger nodded. "Monsters." "And what are we?" Rutger looked out into the stars. Alone, but finally standing. The funeral was held in silence. Not for the Grot, not for the Valeri, not for the billions vaporized, but for one of their own. Lieutenant Thorne, a 26-year-old engineer from Luna Base, found in his quarters with a pistol and a note. "I didn't come out here to kill children." The crew didn't speak about it. Reuter had banned funerals after the first cluster of suicides. He said grief made them weak, but people whispered. Even on the Warden, ghosts began to pile up. What are we becoming? Out in the Sarin Belt, the humans were winning. System after system fell. Council routes scorched. Depots detonated. Outposts erased. But victory looked like smoldering planets. Hollowed-out moons. AI-run prisons holding alien POWs who had never fired a shot. The humans didn't stop because they couldn't. Earth couldn't afford mercy anymore. Reuter stood by that logic like a shield. Every decision was cold and final. He read loss reports like accounting figures. Every alien death tallied like a check mark against centuries of humiliation. He didn't eat with the crew, didn't sleep in rotation, spent most of his time alone running simulations, but he wasn't blind to what it was doing to them. Kenner barely spoke now, becoming hollow, not obedient, just quiet. Others began to follow. This war wasn't forging warriors. It was carving out the last of their humanity. Then came the Council's last stand. The fractured species met in orbit above Val Atros, a neutral ground, protected by treaties no one cared about. They had no choice. The humans were too fast, too ruthless, too united. The remaining powers proposed the final protocol, a mass weapons strike on Earth itself. Reuter intercepted the chatter. "Pull up our asset list," he said. "Every off-grid agent, every sleeper cell. Activate them." "You think they'll hit Earth?" Kenner asked. "I know they will." Phase 2 began. Earth had changed. Cities underground, manufacturing centers converted to defense relays, education replaced with military readiness, children piloting drones, teenagers drafted into encryption cells. No more celebrities, no more elections. Earth was now a planet with one purpose: survival through domination. When Reuter's message hit command, "They're coming. Prepare to burn," Earth didn't panic. It hardened. The final protocol launched. 6 alien fleets broke into Sol space, planning to swarm the atmosphere with antimatter pulses, level the surface. But Earth had become a trap. The attackers didn't make it past Mars. The Lecta fell first, their ship ruptured by a net of weaponized nanoash. The Drosen, crippled by a virus seeded into their navigation arrays decades ago. The rest obliterated in a brutal orbital dogfight. Earth sent no prisoners, no messages, just wreckage. Reuter watched the live feed and for the first time in weeks smiled. "They tried to wipe us out," Kenner said. "And now they never will," Reuter replied. But something behind Kenner's eyes shifted. "If this is winning, why does it feel like we're already dead?" In Council space, panic turned to chaos. The Valeri homeworld sent out a plea for ceasefire, willing to hand over secrets, surrender worlds, offer reparations. Earth didn't respond. Rutger sent back one sentence: "We no longer speak peace with cowards." And the fleet moved in. The siege of Valeri Prime became a broadcast. Every strike, every explosion, every screaming evac route sent live across the galaxy by human propaganda ships. "We want them to watch," Reuter said. "We want every species to know this is what happens when you put your foot on Earth's neck and expect us to beg. The broadcasts went viral. Millions watched as the galactic capital collapsed. The council shut down its remaining nodes. By then, it didn't matter. There was no council anymore, only the fleet. In the darkness of the Warden, Kenner sat alone, watching an old Earth video, a home movie, his brother, his mother, a beach, laughter, sunlight. He hadn't seen Earth in years. He didn't know what would be left of it, because he knew now Rutger wasn't going to stop. Not until every last alien empire was broken, begging or buried. And maybe not even then. He thought of Thorn, of the suicides, of Sikrul's burning cities, and Astara's silent orphans. He thought of the things he used to believe in. Peace, order, honor. All gone, replaced by one truth. You win, or you burn. And Earth had chosen to win, no matter the cost. The halls of the Warden felt colder now, not because of systems failure, but because of the silence, the weight of absence. The suicide rate had tripled. The brass didn't speak of it. The logs listed them as non-combat losses. But everyone knew what they really were. Casualties of guilt. Even Kenner, once the moral voice, now walked like a ghost. His boots hit the ground with mechanical rhythm, his eyes always distant. He was still respected, still obeyed, but nobody asked him what he thought anymore. Deep down, they knew what he'd say. We've gone too far. And once that truth took root, it was hard to ignore everything else unraveling. The Warden's next target was Ith's Gate, a megastructure used to control wormhole routes, defended by the Katal, a neutral species. Wipe it out, Rutger ordered, and kill the power grid before they evacuate. Sir, the gate is mostly scientific personnel, Kenner said. They're not soldiers. Neither were the Mars colonists. Neither were the kids buried under Citral. They've benefited from our weakness long enough. Ith's Gate has never launched a weapon. That's the problem. They never fought with us. Now they'll learn the cost of silence. The railguns aligned, the gravitic anchors locked, and the most advanced scientific hub in the quadrant was reduced to slag. No survivors, only debris and dying screams. Reuter didn't watch, but Kenner did. In the following days, a fracture grew, not just in Kenner, but across the fleet. Quiet insubordination, missed confirmations, intentional delays. Not rebellion, not yet, but something worse in Rutger's eyes, weakness. He responded swiftly. 4 officers were executed in front of their crews. This isn't a democracy, Rutger said. This is survival. If any of you hesitate again, I will end you myself. The crew didn't argue, but in their eyes, something changed. He was no longer a commander. He was a tyrant. Kenner stood at Thorne's old bunk that night, staring at the photo left behind. A family waiting for a father who would never come home. Was this what we were supposed to fight for? He muttered. From the shadows, Mira, chief of tactical ops, replied, "This is what we became when they stopped treating us like people." You still believe we're right? I don't know what right means anymore. I just know we can't stop. Not now. Why not? Because the second we stop, we'll have to live with what we did, and I don't think any of us can survive that. Back on Earth, things were worse. The Council's destruction created a power vacuum, filled by private warlords, rogue corporations, Earth-first extremists. They claimed territories the fleet had cleansed, using fear and loyalty tests. One colony broadcasted a live execution of alien civilians, promising genetic purity for a reborn Earth. The government didn't respond. What had been a desperate bid for survival had mutated into a doctrine of absolute supremacy. There were whispers that someone in upper command was planning to turn on Rutger. He had become too powerful. Earth had never intended to let one man become the face of the war, but they couldn't stop him now. He wasn't just leading the fleet. He was the fleet. Then came the senior broadcast. A young girl, no older than 9, face streaked with ash, stared into a shaky camera. Why do the humans hate us? We didn't do anything. We gave food to their people. We played with their children. Why are they killing us? It wasn't propaganda. It was raw, unfiltered pain, and it broke something inside millions across the galaxy. Even on Earth, people watched in silence. On the Warden, it played once before the signal was scrambled. Rutger didn't comment, but Kenner saw his jaw tighten, saw the briefest flicker in his eyes. It was gone a second later, but it was there. Doubt. The Warden's next destination was Sela Hive, an insectoid world that had once been an Earth ally. The humans claimed they had stockpiled weapons, harbored fugitives, but in truth, the Telga had refused to surrender their AI archives, so they were marked for destruction. Mira stood with Kenner outside the war room, watching the final strike orders load. "Are we going to stop this?" she asked. Kenner didn't answer immediately, but this time he wasn't quiet out of fear. He was calculating. If we go against them, we die. If we follow orders, we lose what little is left of us. The only way to stop this, he trailed off. Mira finished for him, is to remove Rutger. They didn't say assassination. They didn't have to. The war had changed them all, turned soldiers into butchers, leaders into tyrants, loyalty into silence. And now it would turn men like Kenner into something darker. They didn't meet in secret, just a maintenance deck, abandoned, quiet. There, the first talk of betrayal bloomed. Kenner stood with Mira, Wells, Dre, and Oswin. None looked proud. All looked like they hadn't slept in days. "If we do this, we don't get to go back," Kenner said. "There's nothing to go back to," Dre replied. Mira nodded. "He's not stopping. The war's become personal. The galaxy's already in ashes, and he's still lighting matches." "Rutger saved us," Oswin said quietly. Kenner didn't argue. Rutger had saved them at first. He was the blade that cut the leash. But now, that blade was turning on anything that breathed. "So, what's the plan?" Wells asked. "Shoot him in his chair?" "No," Kenner said. "Too loud, too messy. He's paranoid, always armed, and he's got eyes everywhere." "So what then?" "We bleed the command structure first. Quietly cut him off. Make the ship think he's losing control. Let the doubt spread. And then, we finish it ourselves." The first step was data manipulation. Wells fed false metrics into the Warden's targeting algorithms. Mira leaked casualty stats, real ones, to the crew. By the end of the week, morale was cracking. People started looking at each other differently, not as soldiers in a righteous war, but as participants in something they no longer understood. Rutger noticed the shift. He summoned Kenner to his quarters. "I hear whispers," Rutger said. "About me. About the war. Do you know anything about that?" Rumors spread fast in long campaigns. "I don't want rumors. I want soldiers. Then maybe stop asking them to slaughter civilians." Rutger turned slowly. "You're not the same man who signed on. Neither are you. I built this fleet out of ashes. I turned a dying species into a force the galaxy fears. You think that happens without sacrifice?" "You turned us into monsters," Kenner said. "No, I showed you the monster we already were." That night, 3 more officers joined the cause. The plan: Wells would isolate life support in Rutger's command room. Mira would reroute surveillance. Kenner would walk in and end it clean. But when the time came, something went wrong. Wells was found dead in the reactor shaft. Mira disappeared. Rutger knew them all. The next morning, Rutger called an emergency briefing. "I know some of you think I've lost control. I haven't. I've never been more focused. They called us savages, laughed while we begged, let us burn on Mars, sold our future. And now we've taken it back. And now that it's hard, you want to stop. I won't let you. I will burn every world that ever spat on us. I will erase every council record of our inferiority. I will drag humanity to the top or die with my hands around the galaxy's throat. No one spoke, because in that moment, everyone understood. Rutger was no longer fighting a war. He was the war. And to stop him, they'd have to do more than kill a man. They'd have to break the monster they helped create. After the briefing, Kenner stood alone, the warden en route to Xelon, a water-rich planet, home to a species known for diplomacy and neutrality. The Xelians surrendered openly, the queen laying down her crown, asking only that their children be spared. Rutger watched the broadcast, then turned it off. Bring us in. Full strike capacity. No one moved at first. Then the order filtered through. Kenner knew this was the line. He moved quickly, took a pulse pistol, an EMP dagger, no armor, no helmet. He didn't plan on walking out alive. He moved through the corridors, every footstep echoing. He reached the armory, took his weapons, and moved to the command chamber. 2 guards at the door. He moved before they could react. The door opened. Rutger stood alone, staring at Xelon. You came, Rutger said. I have to stop you. I know. You were supposed to protect us. I did. You were supposed to free us. I did that too. You're not a leader anymore. You're a disease. Rutger turned, tired. You think killing me will stop this war? You think Earth will pull back? That this blood will wash off just because the man who spilled it is gone? Rutger stepped closer. You're not killing me to save the galaxy. You're doing it because you want to believe this still means something. Kenner's hand trembled. Go ahead. Pull the trigger. But know this. There's no one waiting for you back home. Earth doesn't need heroes anymore. Just survivors. I'd rather die a man than live as your shadow. The pistol fired. Rutger staggered, coughed, collapsed. You think this ends with me? I hope so. Rutger smiled as he died. They'll come for you next. The bridge was chaos. He's dead, Kenner announced. Rutger is dead. Who gave you the right? We all did when we started lying to ourselves about what this war had become. He was leading us to victory, at the cost of everything human inside us. He was the only reason Earth survived. This isn't survival. This is butchery. You all know it. So what now? We finish the mission, but we change how we fight. Any further targets must be confirmed hostile. Civilian strikes are suspended. Surrendering worlds are to be spared. We will not become the monsters they said we were. Some accepted it, some refused. 4 destroyer captains disconnected from the fleet. Others swore vengeance for Rutger, but most were just tired. The first test came 3 days later. A Xelian cruiser approached under white flag, the Queen herself. You spared us, she said. Why didn't you? Because I couldn't live with it. I wish you had come sooner. Back on the bridge, Kenner watched the stars slip by. Reuter's body had been spaced, his name stricken from the records, but his legacy couldn't be deleted. Planets still burned because of him. Species still hated humanity. The galaxy would never forget the war that turned one error into extinction-level fire. Kenner wasn't trying to be a hero. He was just trying to keep humanity from losing what little soul it had left. The first message from Earth came 72 hours after Kenner took command. Stand down or be replaced. Retired authority violation. EarthGov hadn't sent an inquiry or a review board. They'd already made their decision. Kenner stared at the transmission. He didn't respond. He had put a bullet in Rutger's chest. The man Earth treated like a war god. Now they wanted to remove him, not for the act, but for the reason. Mercy. The fleet was splintered. Some ships followed Kenner. Others debated returning to Earth. A dangerous few stayed just long enough to gather intel, then vanished. Mira would have helped him, but she was gone. Oswin was still there. You going to step down? I didn't kill Rutger to hand this back to men who think the war is a game. Then they'll send someone. They already have. Another alert, unregistered vessel approaching from Sol Jump Vector. ESS Vindication, a Black Fleet carrier, a ghost ship. The transmission? Commander Kenner, this is Director Wren. Stand down. You are under military arrest. If you resist, you will be purged. Kenner ordered the fleet to scatter. Phase Gray, emergency protocol. Across the stars, the human fleet burst apart. The Vindication waited. The Warden didn't jump. Kenner stayed behind, not running, not before saying something Earth needed to hear. He opened a wideband channel. This war started with a mistake, a single glitch. But the slaughter that followed wasn't an accident. It was deliberate. It was policy. It was vengeance dressed up as survival. We became what they said we were. Savages. Monsters. But it's not too late to stop it. I killed Rutger because I believed Earth could still come back from the edge. If that makes me a traitor, so be it. I'd rather die as a traitor than live as another cog in your machine of endless war. The reply from Director Wren. Your emotional outburst has been archived. Your failure to follow restoration doctrine confirms your detachment from Earth's long-term stability strategy. Your life is now expendable. Goodbye. The Vindication moved, launching Void Lance missiles. Kenner shouted, "Brace for impact." The first missile was intercepted. The second struck the aft deck. The third released a boarding capsule. They weren't here to kill him, not yet. Oswin took a hit. Kenner dragged him to a stealth shuttle Mira had prepped. Where are we going? Somewhere unaligned, somewhere forgotten. As the Warden disappeared behind them, Kenner looked back one last time. Only now, at the edge of treason and death, did he feel anything close to peace. The war wasn't over. The galaxy was still bleeding. But he had one last fight left, not against aliens, but against the people who taught him to become a monster. The shuttle drifted through the uncharted outskirts of the narrow reach, a dead sector. Kenner used an old comm satellite, Mira's code, and waited. "Mirora, you're alive," she said. "You disappeared." "I had to. Reuter was watching everyone. I killed him." "I know. We need to end this. All of it. EarthGov, the Black Fleets, the extermination doctrine. I've been building something. Not a resistance? Not yet. But there are others. How many? Enough to hurt them, not enough to win. Then we make them bleed anyway. Over 2 weeks, Kenner and Mira pieced together what remained of the splintered fleet. 10 ships answered Kenner's call. No fanfare, no ranks, just people who had hit their limit. Each carried scars. They wanted the war to end. The ESS Dominion, Earth's new flagship, entered the Drailcar Pass, purging anyone who wouldn't kneel. Kenner had one shot. He gathered the 10 ships, gave one order, hit them where they think they're safe. The ambush at Station Atarax saw Earth's own fleet tear itself apart. For once, it wasn't the aliens who were running. It was Earth. But Wren survived, fleeing to Red Hold, a fortress buried beneath an iron moon. Mira tracked it. Kenner followed. Red Hold wasn't a battle. It was a massacre. The Talon Arc landed with a drop team of 8 veterans. They fought through corridors, and at its core, Director Wren. "You think this changes anything?" she said. "You kill me. Earth installs another. You dismantle Red Hold, they build another. You save a colony, they wipe 10 more. I don't need to end EarthGov. I just need the galaxy to see who they really are." Wren smiled. "Then pull the trigger. But know this. Earth doesn't bleed. It burrows." Kenner fired. They didn't destroy Red Hold. They broadcasted it. Every file. Every document showing EarthGov's plans to enslave half the galaxy. For the first time in 20 years, Earth lost something worse than a fleet. It lost control of the story. Kenner vanished. Mira kept the signal alive. Her ships became symbols of rebellion, not to destroy Earth, but to remind people that power has a price. And the fire that began with one mistake, the glitch that led to war, to slaughter, to blood, would be remembered not as a tragedy, but as a warning. Years later, a young cadet on a fringe outpost would study the human wars and ask, was Kenner a hero or a traitor? The instructor would pause, then say, he was both. Because sometimes the only way to save your people is to stop them from becoming what they fear the most.